The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Greetings, boarders, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the Auld Lang Syne and New Year's Day of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network and still to be part of the Dice Tower Network as well. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who can't decide between Taylor Swift, U2, or Hootie. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Once again, you confused me with the opening. Auld Lang Syne. I don't know what that is.
Oh, really? That is like the New Year's Eve song that you sing at midnight?
Shirt All Acquaintance. Is it Auld Lang Syne?
Yeah, that's how you, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fair enough. And then is it Taylor Swift, U2, or Hootie, that's FMK?
Well, they all have songs called New Year's Day.
I thought you were going to let me choose because I would marry Taylor Swift, and I would kill you too.
Okay, actually, maybe this is okay. I mean, it's okay. But no, probably other bands too. But they are the three bands I know of that have songs called New Year's Day.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. When I first saw this, I was like, "Oh, you gave me a heck of a selection to choose from."
If you were going to listen to
two
a
of the
song,
three of those bands haven't been relevant for 25 years, but
what are you talking about? U2 just made you listen to their album recently if you bought an Apple device.
I said relevant.
Oh, gotcha. I feel like they must still do very well when they tour. Like they have to probably do pretty amazingly still.
Yeah, and the band I consider relevant isn't even a band; it's a person, so it's even worse.
That's true. Wait, hey, Hootie's pretty well known in the country market. He still does pretty decently there. Darius Rucker. And they are touring as a group again, I think. I think Hootie and the Blowfish are back touring as a group.
Sure, but so is NSYNC. It doesn't make them relevant.
Well, NSYNC is doing it, though, without one of the, the biggest member of the group, so that makes it a little different.
That's true. Well, he's too busy, holding hands with his co-stars and stuff.
Well,
That's all over the tabloids. I was in the grocery store today, and
yes.
Every cover of every magazine were just terrible things about people. I'm like, why is this a thing?
Yeah. I do remember it when that was Justin Timberlake was trending on Twitter, and I had to go and I looked at
because you want to make sure he wasn't dead. Yeah.
Well, I kind of. I was
or
like,
didn't get me too'd
or something. Yeah.
And then he did.
And it was like, Justin Timberlake apologizes to Jessica Biel for holding hands with another woman. And I was like, oh boy. Okay, well, I'm sorry I spent any time looking at that at all. My goodness.
Yeah, good times. I miss when it used to be Bat Boy on the cover of magazines at the grocery store. And now it's Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt and Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel.
I will say the way that those magazines, though, know that they can get my partner, though, is if they put anything about the royal family on there.
Oh, the royal family was on one of them, too.
Yeah, she's totally in. She loves the Royals family and can tell you, but it's not just the current one. Like, she knows the lineage, like who is related to what from where and for how long and all that stuff. I actually one time had to call her at work because I had a whole bunch of coworkers who weren't totally understanding, when the latest wedding happened, like, oh, where are they in line and how does this work? So I called her and put her on a speakerphone, and she just explained everything to everyone about, like, here's how this works, here's who's in line for what, and I can barely remember any of their names. So, it's cool, whatever. Everyone has their things they're into, no big deal.
Yeah.
But, hey, Josh, it's the holiday season. Christmas just happened for those who celebrate it.
It's the holiday season. Yes, it is.
So that just happened. New Year's is right around the corner.
Yeah, I can't wait for 2020. I'm so done with this year.
So, in order to kind of stay on topic with what our show is about when we talk about 2020 in board games and video games. Number one, let's just review 2019 as a whole.
Okay.
It sounds like 2019, not a great year is what you're saying.
No. It's just, it's at the time of the year where a whole year has gone by and it gets old. I think with the holidays, there's a lot to be thankful for and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, for me, and obviously I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but for me, it has, since I've had a kid, has become very stressful. And it makes me excited to put the year behind me in a way that I just never really felt before. Like I don't think I've ever approached like New Year's Eve and was like, oh, I can't wait to get this year out of the way. But because like it's just another month that's coming up. But
right,
something about knowing that I still have 11 more months until we have to deal with holidays again is very nice. So so I'm excited to. 2019 was a great year. It was a fantastic year. So many things happened for me and my family in a positive way, and we dealt with a lot of hardships as well. But that comes with a year. But it was a good year. I wouldn't say it was a remarkably bad year because I don't think we lost anyone important to us this year, which is good. That always puts a damper on the years, and I say that I mean my family.
Right.
I know other people have, and that makes it tougher for them. But yeah, no terrible illnesses, all that kind of stuff. It was a pretty good year. So,
excellent.
If anything, I would hope 2020 is just as good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can't really complain too much about 2019. It was a fine year. When I look from a personal perspective, I will say the thing that has been over the last few months, especially, living in Iowa with the elections being in 2020, Iowa is an interesting place to live at this time of year for sure. All I can say is I'm very thankful that my cell phone number is not any Iowa area code.
Oh, that's smart.
Because I just kept it from where I lived way previously, so I have the same number, but the number of political ads, political calls, people stopping by your house, like all of that stuff, they very much want people to be involved in the political process, which is cool. They do some very cool things, and living in the place where we get to participate, in government is good, and you should definitely do that. You should vote, you should participate in all these things. But the idea of caucusing and all of this stuff just they take it very seriously here, and it's regular conversations about who you're going to caucus for, where are you caucusing at, what are you doing with all of that. So yeah, it's always I'm looking forward to like getting past February at this point, so we can be done with that part. But I'll participate because it's my civic duty. So it's what we're supposed to do. So anyway, Hey, enough with the personal stuff.
Yeah.
This is the last of the quote unquote special shows. So we're just going to move right into talking about 2020, previewing it from a board game perspective and a video game perspective. Our last few shows have been pretty long. I don't know where this one will fall. This one, I think it's either going to be really long or really short.
Let's shoot for short. How about
that? We could try one time, right? Doing a short show. So we'll kind of see what happens. But like I said, we've taken a look back at 2019. We talked about our favorite games of the year of 2019 from a board game perspective. So now we're going to look forward to 2020. Board games are always a little tougher to predict. Video games this year is a little different, or going into 2020 is a bit different. There's new consoles on the horizon, so we don't know quite as much about what's happening in the video game world in the next year. But for board games, it's even more of a mystery. It's really difficult to predict what's going to come out, what's going to be available to play, and some of the biggest games and best games of the year we probably don't even know exist yet. So we're going to talk about some of the current trends in board games and whether we think those will continue, make some predictions for 2020, as well as make some board game goals for 2020, and then we'll move on to the video game realm. So to start with, Josh, I think without a doubt, roll and write games were kind of the hot trend in board games and kind of have been for the last 18 months or so.
Yep.
Do you think roll and writes are going to continue, and why do you think they're so hot?
That second question is a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to continue because I think what we're seeing now is roll and write versions of popular board games that are already in existence, which shows that companies see a value in the roll and write market. In fact, like we have a game that we have to review by Renegade Games called Clip Cut Park, which is an actually cut and roll and cut game instead of roll and write. So there's also going to be a lot of different like iterations to this style. But to answer the second question, I don't know that I have an answer to that. I've only played one. I own more than one, but I've only played one roll and write game, and that's Lanterns Dice. I enjoyed it.
Right.
I don't. For me personally, the most frustrating part, some of the most frustrating parts of board games, for me are the scoring aspects, especially when there's a lot to do with scoring. It doesn't take me out of a game, but like Seven Wonders would be an example where you really need a scoring pad to accurately show your work so other people also see what's going on. And that can be a little frustrating to me. So with a roll and write game, it's really incorporating a part of games I don't enjoy, which is frequently logging things. And I know that might seem ironic with me saying that. Maybe not ironic. It might seem hypocritical that I say that, having Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space as one of my favorite games of the decade, but it's different when you are responsible for your own movements and actions in your writing. Whereas, I don't know. Whereas you're not responsible for it doesn't take longer to play the game. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get to. But I can see the parallels for sure. And there definitely could be roll and writes out there that I would enjoy. But having only played one and being like lukewarm on it, right now I just can't see why it's such a big craze right now. Especially because it worries me about. I know you can just go probably online and print more pages or get them laminated, but that's something that you can do now. But what if I decide to open up a game next year and that website's down, or they're not offering print and play PDFs anymore, or they're charging now, or whatever the case? I just worry about the longevity of those games, especially like the cut and write game, the roll and cut game. Like, so there's definitely worries I have about them. So I guess I don't really know why they're so popular. What's your opinion on this topic?
One thing that I saw posited online, and I can't remember who said it, so I don't know if this is true or accurate, and I would love to cite who it was, but I just genuinely can't remember. But they theorize that the reason that roll and write games have gotten so popular is because they're extremely inexpensive to produce. Sure. And that if you have a known property and can reproduce that property in a roll and write version, it's ostensibly like printing a second edition or an expansion for this game, where we used to see like the dice versions of games all the time. Yeah. This is just now kind of that next step, a really inexpensive way to capitalize on a known property. Or if you are creating a new game, it's not as expensive to produce. So it's not as much of a risk if it doesn't work. I have no idea if that's true. I have no idea if how the budget for all of that works out and the economics of that. It seems kind of reasonable. Most roll and write games are pretty minimal on components, pretty minimal on what's in the box, but they're also priced appropriately for that, just like games with just cards or things like that. So I don't fully know if that is, but it does seem kind of like the natural extension of, all right, we had X game, now we have the dice version of it, now we have the roll and write version of it. I just really wonder what the next trend is going to be. Where are we going to go next? Which I don't know what the answer is, right? It seemed for a while that it was thematic wise where everything was zombies. Like we had a whole bunch of zombie things, and then that kind of has died down, and now it's like, oh, everything is roll and write. I don't know if it's going to be, and there is this sprinkling of campaign games / legacy games, because they're not the same, but games with a finite number of plays or games that tell a story, those seem to be getting very, very popular and have really maintained popularity over the last few years. So I don't know, maybe just it's the face of the board games changing, that we've had guests on in the past who've talked about we're going to see fewer games in future years.
Yeah.
With higher production values. So maybe these are the easy things to fit in along with those big hitters that every company is trying to have, those, you know, awesome games that are going to sell a ton. Maybe these are the easy things to produce alongside that. I don't know. So I really need to play some. I've never actually played a roll and write game up to this point. I also think it's an odd name for a genre because when, you know, like, I guess they call it roll and move though, I guess.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird to name it after what you do in it. Like, something I did notice at PAX Unplugged is there's a lot of roll and write games that are coming out that just don't label themselves with that title.
Right.
And you just, when you ask what type of game it is, they say it's a roll and write. So it's not trying to capitalize necessarily on that name anymore, whether that's a positive or negative thing. Maybe they think it's like people don't want to buy it because it's a roll and write.
Right.
But yeah, you're right, because every board game is a roll and move game, essentially.
Yeah. Or roll in place or roll in, you know, those things happen. So another thing that we've seen is we've seen a lot of campaign games, a lot of legacy games. You know, though that has been a thing that really started, you know, 2017, 2018 has continued on, that we're seeing more and more of that. Do you think that trend's going to continue? Do you think that's going to be another thing we see a lot of going into 2020?
I think so. I was trying to think of, because I know this was one of our predictions last year.
Yep.
That we would see more legacy games, and I don't know that we saw more or the same amount. I guess I wasn't actively tracking legacy games this year. I know Machikoro Legacy.
Yep.
Charterstone wasn't this year.
Charterstone was end of 2018.
And Betrayal Legacy wasn't this year.
Yeah, Clank Legacy was this year.
Yeah, so we saw 2 that I know of, maybe more. I still think it is going to continue because there's so many titles to make legacy games of. I still think it's a great concept. The King's Dilemma, which is the game I didn't pull the trigger on at PAX, which I really should have. That's definitely a legacy campaign, both game. So they're definitely out there. Maybe they're marketed less as a legacy game and more as a story game or a campaign game. So yeah, I say, I don't know, we see the same amount, if not more than this year, just because I feel like, at least to my knowledge of games, there wasn't too many that came out this year. In fact, I think we expected more to come out. But it's still definitely a genre that is not dying. People still love legacy games. And, you know, the constant worry or criticism by people is the aspect, the thing of not being able to play the game the way it was meant to be played, which is new every time until you're done with the campaign.
Right.
So it all depends on the price, of course, and the appeal of the title, but I mean, I'm up for more, so I'm going to go ahead and just guess we're going to get more this year.
Right.
2020.
No, for sure. And I think it's an interesting thing to think about. And obviously the difference, legacy games versus games that have a campaign, if you would. But I feel like maybe we're pivoting a bit away from legacy and going more to that campaign / instanced event that you play. Because if you think about, and I guess I don't know off the top of my head, but I know obviously like Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle Earth. I think Tainted Grail is that way. Gosh, I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head. I think Cthulhu Death May Die is that way.
Okay.
I don't know. Is Batman Gotham City Chronicles? Is it?
I think it's campaign.
Okay.
But it's not legacy, no.
Right. So I think that I think we'll see less legacy. I think that's going to start to dwindle.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to continue to see more of the campaign style, story based. You play X thing. And I think there are some games that make it so you can play them multiple times. It just kind of depends on, you know, who you're playing with and the adventure that you have. And, you know, I'm looking forward actually to getting to January when we get back to quote unquote typical episodes, because I have a lot of board games I've been playing which is pretty exciting. But one of them that, you know, just to talk about very briefly, it's like Seventh Continent. You know, we played a lot of Seventh Continent while I've been on break here for the holiday. And that game is a game that very much so you can play the adventures over and over again, and especially if you bring in additional or new people, it can feel very different. And there is some variety in the cards that you might get, but a lot of the campaign is going to, if you go from here, you're going to go to A to B to C to D, but what happens along the way might be slightly different. But it's still exciting, and it's still a fun thing to do, even if you've done it before. So I think we might see more of that. As someone who's a huge fan of legacy games, though, I hope we continue to see them and they continue to happen, because I think there's something cool about having a finite experience.
Yeah.
About saying, I played this was cool, here's the things that happened, and I had a great time with it. So I hope we continue to see them, but I think that we're going to see much more campaign, story-based, expandable things that people can easily add to if they want. Because that's where the money is. It's really hard to do the expansion for Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah.
But you certainly can do expansions for Lord of the Rings. So,
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So as we continue on and kind of think about 2019, there were a lot of video games that suddenly had board games, versions of them announced or came out, mostly announced.
Yeah.
Some came out. What do you think? Do you think that's a trend that's going to continue? Do you think we'll see more video games getting a tabletop entry in them?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're successful, we'll still see adaptations. I think we're more going to see Kickstarter versions of them than we are going to see mainstream board game company releases. Like, we're going to see Metal Gear from IDW, but they kind of had to go the Kickstarter route in the end of it anyways.
Right.
And then we have, Rebellion Unplugged Studios. We're going to get some of their IPs, at least one. But I also noticed at PAX that I didn't talk about was the Saints Row board game got rebranded into a different title.
Oh, interesting.
Which I thought was very interesting as well. And I would argue I don't remember the name of the game because it was so oddly named. It was even a worse name. I'm assuming it's probably licensing that ran out.
Right.
So I don't know what to expect, but I don't think we're going to see, we'll say, Renegade Game Studios publishing a video game IP. I don't know that we'll see another game like God of War from CMON, coming from CMON. But who knows? I could be surprised. But really, what I think we're sticking to, like, Kickstarter versions of board games for now.
Right.
And we'll see what happens with Metal Gear. I mean, if IDW can prove to other companies that people want to spend $130 on a video game board game,
right,
then maybe 2020 is the year where everyone jumps on video game IPs, but I don't necessarily see that happening for major studios right now.
Yeah, it is interesting because, obviously with Rebellion creating their Unplugged or whatever they call it, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebellion Unplugged, that is pretty unique. The only other company that's really done that is, Riot with Mechs and Minions.
Yeah.
Where they created in-house a board game based off their IP. I'm interested to see if anyone else does something like that or makes a more formal agreement to, instead of licensing individual properties. Like, does Microsoft go to Fantasy Flight and Asmodee and say, hey, you're going to start making Halo and what XYZ board games, for our properties? I think there are many good things that could be created from video game properties into board games. I just think that it's the question as to whether it's going to be a well-developed, take the time, create an awesome game, or is it going to copy and paste RIP onto a game you already have,
right,
and tweak a few of the things to make it fit our world. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be cool to see a little more of that. I think it'd be awesome to expand the universe of the video games in a board game. I think that's something that could easily be done. It would be a cool way to do it. And in some ways, if you could time it out so, you had a video game release 2 years later, you had a board game release 2 years later, the, video game sequel came out, you could be giving content in that property or in that world regularly or more regularly to the fans, which I think a lot of people would be down for. So if I were working at one of those big companies, I would be having those conversations with people. But I also don't work at those companies, and maybe that's why.
Right. Well, no, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, look at what Darksiders tried to do, and I don't think anyone knew this. Like Darksiders Genesis, there was like an Ultimate Edition that came with a board game that was only sold with that one edition. It was like $400. It's insane. Yeah. And that's not a smart marketing. Like, that's not what you should be doing. But like, we know that IDW has like the Konami license for board games.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still going to get like the Centipedes and the Missile Commands. But, I don't necessarily even consider those the video game crossover titles because it feels like shovelware, the board game. And those games might be fine, but just they're not putting one, they're not marketing them. Two, they're not putting quality components into at least the boxes. Like, they're not getting this out to people. Like, if they did a Contra game, people would pay more attention because they know the IP.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the game is good.
As this year's Contra proved.
Right. So who knows what's going to happen with these games, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more on your side on this one.
Yeah. Last little topic to cover. Obviously, Kickstarter overall, in comparison to other areas, maybe especially video games, Kickstarter for board games has been very successful. It is a regular route that folks go to get their games funded. Typically, games ship. Typically, they're roughly on time, maybe a few months late. But for the most part, there's a lot of companies out there who really have a good grasp on how to run quality Kickstarters. Do you think anything's going to change with Kickstarter and board games in 2020? Is it going to be pretty much status quo, where you have, the most high profile, most expensive games that are going here first, and a few lower, quote unquote, lower priced ones that are, more MSRP from smaller companies who maybe need the money to help get them printed? Do you anticipate any major changes or alterations to how board games and Kickstarter happen in 2020?
I don't know that we'll see any changes. And I say that as a consumer in a good way, and as a person who's aware of the board gaming industry in a bad way. Like, there definitely needs to be changes for Kickstarter in general from what I've been hearing. I will say, I think Kickstarter is going to be even more popular in 2020 than it was this year. In fact, I got group chatted for the Unsettled board game, which is by the people from Orange Nebula Games who did Vindication. It's their space one. And this is a friend of our Gloomhaven buddy who was like, "Hey, let's the four of us go in on this game." And before I even had to say yes or no, everyone else was like, "Yeah, okay, cool, that looks awesome, let's do it." And then I was like, "Well, actually, I have Vindication from a certain someone, far away." And he's like, "Oh, that's actually how I found this, through the Vindication, and we should play that." And I was like, "Great." So I think that for something that we have known about for a long time, Kickstarter is still becoming more and more mainstream,
right, by
the month, with people realizing what's available in Kickstarter. And this, I think this trend will continue. What I'm worried about is the logistics of Kickstarter for 2020, between the distributors and the unknown, the big giant question marks on shipping issues and tariffs and what's going on with them, and who's going to try to leverage that to make more money, because I've already seen it in one of the Kickstarters I've done, where they're giving you high shipping costs because they're expecting to run into problems, but they're not offering to lower shipping costs if they don't, which is a problem. So there's definitely the problem with that I find. One of the problems I find with Kickstarter is you're at the mercy of the creator.
Yeah.
And I've always had faith in Kickstarter because Kickstarter is an investment, essentially, that you might not get your money back on. That's always been upfront, but I don't think people who are getting into Kickstarter now know that because it is not something that is put in front of your face anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For us who got into Kickstarter 2, 3, 4 years ago, that was the first thing you would see. This is, this is whatever they wanted to word it as, so I don't know. I'm dancing around my issue with Kickstarter, but I hope to see them become more successful because it provides more content for board games. But I don't want it to be at the expense of us, the gamers.
I would agree with everything you said there. I think that, I slowed down on the number of Kickstarters I backed this year. I also just slowed down on the number of games I purchased in general, even though I still bought probably more than I should have. Yeah. I think I'm getting more and more choosy about what I am purchasing on Kickstarter and the number of games I'm backing. And maybe I'm wrong. I feel like that's what everyone is doing, but maybe, with all these Kickstarters raising a ton of money, maybe I'm just totally wrong about that. Maybe, a ton of people are backing away to their heart's content, and that's the only way they buy board games now is that way, is they don't buy, the typical MSRP released games anymore. I don't know. So yeah, it's interesting. I think for the most part, I think Kickstarter is going to continue doing its thing. I think you'll still see a lot of big name projects go there. I think you'll still see millions and millions of dollars raised by Kickstarter projects. But I do think that we might see each company individually doing maybe one or two less Kickstarters than they would have done otherwise. Just because I feel like things are starting to slow down. I could be wrong, but it kind of seems that way. So
there is a Kickstarter right now.
Mm-hmm.
Called Hong Kong Summer 2019.
Okay.
It is a board game miniatures about the real life situations that are happening with rioters in Hong Kong right now.
Okay.
It is 428% funded.
Goodness, how much money is that?
That's $45,000. So, let me ask you a question. If there's 466 backers, it's a miniatures game based on the real life events where in the game players act as the protesters against the extradition law amendment bill movement in Hong Kong. All you are doing is playing as that group of people.
Okay.
We hoped to let the players experience what ridiculous events had happened in Hong Kong during this time in the form of a tabletop RPG board game.
Okay.
So you get this giant, Dead of Winter looking set. Other characters include corrupted cops, riot police, and tear gas police.
Yep.
So this is something that maybe Kickstarter is going to face in 2020 with, I don't even know how to say this without feeling like I'm saying something wrong. This is a very politically one-side opinionated game.
Yeah.
So what do you do in a situation like that? They also unlocked the PC version, which includes the same missions in the base game. Just so you know.
Gotcha.
My worry when looking at this is delivery. Getting this game being delivered to people.
Uh-huh.
You're pushing this giant game. Your goal was $19,000 on Kickstarter. You're shipping from Hong Kong.
Right.
Sorry, not China. From Hong Kong to the U.S. It's in English and Cantonese.
Mm-hmm.
When you back something like this,
yeah,
what is your expectation?
Well, here's my thing. I would not back that game. And not because of the subject matter, but has the person who's created it, have they ever made any other projects that have successfully funded?
It is created by No, this is their first creative project.
I'm not backing that project because of that alone.
Right.
And I think it's, they obviously are, in my mind, it seems like they are trying to capitalize on a political environment that people are interested in currently and want to be talking about, right?
Yeah.
If you release that game without tying it to the events in Hong Kong, and you just had it a game about protesters and the police and trying to, that might be a charged concept anyway.
Yeah.
But, that is something I don't think would necessarily go as high profile, or people wouldn't think about it as much. I look at it as like this War of Mine, right?
Yes.
That game was based off of, they don't talk about necessarily the actual incidents that it was based off of, but that game is all about, being a group of civilians trying to survive in a war-torn city, which was based off actual events that happened in Eastern Europe. Right? They don't name those events. They don't talk about the events that happened, but that is a really politically charged thing still, just maybe not quite as fresh necessarily or as in your face. So I don't necessarily think that is wrong or that Kickstarter needs to necessarily do anything about it.
Right.
But I would not back that game in any way, shape, or form, even if I was like, oh man, 50% of the proceeds were going to support the protesters, and that was something that I believed in.
Yeah.
Because of who created it and the fact that they've never done anything successfully before, I'm out. I'm totally out.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just yeah. So anyways, I didn't expect to find that. I was just pulling up my Kickstarter app to look at all of the board games that are just listed on the very front of the page, and there's so many board games that are flooding Kickstarter.
Right.
That was the first one that came up, but there's like that Red Outpost that is, at $117,000 on a goal of $3,000. There's Sins and Infernal Deck Builder that's 3,000% funded. That's 556 backers. Everyone in the world seems to be on Kickstarter backing board games. So
it does seem that way, that's for sure.
So it's definitely something that is pretty strong right now, I would say, to get off of that weird diversion.
And you expect it to continue to be strong, I assume.
I think so. I think we're going to see a lot more IP-driven games on Kickstarter in 2020.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think that would make sense for sure. All right. So anything you want to talk about in general about 2020 board games before we get to our predictions?
Well, it's interesting because I know what we're doing about video games, but it's almost impossible to find board games that are coming out next year.
It is very challenging.
There's like lists of Kickstarters that are launching in the next 3 months. But you can't find any companies, and maybe it's because they want this at the surprise, like at cons, like the big announcements, and perhaps that's what it is, like their little micro E3s throughout the year. But it's just very interesting to me that we couldn't really just pull up a list of our most excited board games of 2020 because you can't find any.
Right, for sure. It's interesting because I actually was looking back since you were looking at your Kickstarter stuff. I was looking at mine, and of the games I backed this year, man, I have 2 of the games that I backed this year I have already, but that's it. So
I don't even think to look at the ones I backed this year.
Because the games I haven't gotten, well, and obviously many of these were like, oh, you're getting them in 2020, so they're not late by any means, but I backed the expansions for Everdell, Sleeping Gods, Tussie Mussie, which I got, and Valley of the Kings Premium, which I got, Root, the Underworld expansion, and Awari. I think Tidal Blades was last year. I don't think that was this year. I can't remember.
It was this year.
Okay, so then that would probably be it for me that it happened this year. So, which is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Not that many compared to previous years.
I did 16. I haven't gotten them all, but I did 16 this year.
Okay, so, one of us does a little more Kickstarter than the other one does.
They're arguably not, most of them aren't very expensive games, though, except for Tidal Blades.
Yeah, no, that I understand. It was funny because I was looking the other day at my longest outstanding Kickstarter that I haven't gotten yet. And it was supposed to, the project funded in 2014.
Oh, wow.
And it's a video game and I still don't have it.
Oh, no.
Yep. So that'll be interesting. The original estimated delivery date was May 2015. Surprise, surprise. And it was supposed to be a PS4 game.
Oh, boy. Well, rest in peace, that game.
I know. PS5, here we come. Okay, so we will get to then our board game predictions for 2020. I have 5 predictions. How many do you have, sir?
I have some. I'm not saying.
We'll
just get to them. No, I have 3 predictions.
Okay, that's fine. Here, I'll start then.
Yeah, you should start.
That makes sense. Okay, if you had to look at the tone or theme of your predictions, are they generally positive, generally negative? What are your tone/theme?
I would say mixed. I didn't necessarily come into them positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
So you could potentially view them as negative, but in my mind, neutral.
Gotcha. I think mine overall trend towards negative.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so here's my first prediction, and this is a prediction I made last year as well, but I think it still holds true. I think Asmodee is going to make one high-profile acquisition again in 2020. Is it?
Yeah. And I was going to say, I hope you didn't go with it first, because I was going to say, I want to steal one of Kyle's from last year.
That's okay. If you had to guess, who would you say they're going to get?
Oh, I don't know. We didn't get a big one from them. We got a couple acquisitions from them, but
some small ones for sure.
We didn't get a big one. They still have the money. They're putting it into apparently video games, which we'll get into. I don't know that I could guess, because my guess would be a game studio that needs help, and I don't know that I'm actively aware of any company that needs help right now.
Here's the interesting thing. When I think of this, I think it might be a video game company that they buy.
Okay.
Because I can see them wanting more help getting more of their games digital. And I don't know what that company would be. Like, I don't know who they would go for, because I'm not versed enough in the mobile space, especially with those who are making board games.
Yeah.
But I could see them purchasing another company to fold into Asmodee Digital.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of good companies out there. Red Raven, Breaking Games, Dude Games. There's a lot of, I'm just looking at my board games here, that are smaller companies that could definitely be brought into the fold. Even Osprey Games, because they're very RPG centric, but they do have a lot of great board games with them, and I could see that happening as well. But yeah,
for sure.
But I don't know. But that was definitely one of my predictions. Okay,
so shared prediction is that Asmodee is going to make a high profile acquisition. Okay, then I will go again.
Yeah.
So, and this is where things get a little sad. Okay, I think that one, and I'm going to use the word significant. One significant board game company is going to close its doors this year.
Okay, interesting. That's it? You don't want to say who it is?
I'm not going to say who I think it is. I do have a specific company in mind.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is one more major brand in the board game companies, in the board game space, that is going to close its doors this year.
Okay. All right.
Do you think that's ridiculous? Am I totally off base? What are your thoughts?
No. I mean, with the volume of board games coming out, that makes total sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What is a prediction from you then, sir?
You could maybe consider it similar to your thought, but I think we're going to see a major board game studio start specifically releasing board games on Kickstarter, which I do not like. Because
so they will move from doing the typical
we'll
structure.
Use who do I want to use?
Like if Renegade started doing everything via Kickstarter.
Yeah, they almost kind of are. No, actually, I was thinking more of CMON.
Okay.
But I think we're going to see a company, we can use Renegade as the example, where they do maybe 2... Actually, let's use AEG, because they specifically said they want to do less board games and focus on quality. So let's say AEG does 3 main board game releases for 2020, but they do 10 Kickstarter games. Because they're not risking any lost investment, any lost what's the word I'm looking for? Investment in the games. So
right.
I don't like this, because Indiegogo and Kickstarter are supposed to exist for creators and developers who can't afford to necessarily fund their product right away or find a studio to back them. And I still think that should be the way it is. Obviously, it's not anymore, at least on Kickstarter. So I don't think this is a good thing, but I do think we're going to see at least one, if not more, game studios start focusing more on kickstarting their games instead of releasing product to the market as a general release, which is a bummer.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. I could see that, and I also probably would agree with your sentiment on it. So, okay. So my next one, also kind of a bummer one. I think there will be one major Kickstarter failure this year, where the funds are collected and it's a significant amount of money, but the game never ships.
Sure, I'm sure Golden Bell Studios has something to do with it. I'm just going based on experience.
Hey, you got your game.
You know what? I did. I got my game from a backer, not from the company.
Okay, well, that's true, I guess.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that is mine. I think there's going to be a big one. And I'm talking a game that, in my mind, when I wrote this, I'm talking a game that generates like over $1 million.
I mean, I could see that happening. It happened with Evil Dead 2.
Yep.
The first version of it.
Correct.
Because we had someone in our Discord say, hey, I backed Evil Dead 2 on Kickstarter 2 years ago, and then we were told we weren't getting our games, and then I just got an email saying I'm getting a copy of Evil Dead 2. And I was like, I'm so happy to hear you say that, but it's not from the people you backed it from. It's from this other better company that, made this awesome deal to get you your game. So it was nice to hear that story that I didn't think we were going to know someone who experienced that. But yeah, anyways, that's way off topic. So my last one, I would have had more. It's just been a hell of a weekend. We kind of already talked about it earlier. I really see this resurgence in video game IP board games, because of, and not just video games. Well, I'm thinking video games specifically, but I'm thinking of it because of the popularity with licensed games this year, specifically from like Prospero Hall, because of the quality of games coming out. But we're going to see Metal Gear. It's definitely gained a lot of buzz. We've yet to know if the game's good or not, but do I have faith in Emerson to put out an incredible game? Yes. So I assume the game will be great. But not only that, but we have a video game company who has decided to create their own board game studio to put out their own games. Every time I go to PAX Unplugged, I see more and more people testing the idea of video games as board games.
Right.
The fact that Riot Games hasn't done a Mechs vs. Minions sequel really just confuses the heck out of me because they made so much money on that board game. So I really think 2020 is going to be the year of new board games based on video game IPs, from everything from Mega Man to Contra to Mario. Who knows? Like, there's so many possibilities. And we're going to get the release of the Horizon Zero Dawn game next year.
Right.
Which could create more buzz if it's as good as it should be.
Josh, you want to know something interesting?
Is it the same one? Did you have the same prediction?
My next prediction was that, quote, 3 video game franchises will have their first board game version announced/released. And I specified that these are games we currently don't know about.
Okay.
And the video game has never had a board game before.
Okay.
So these are brand new games that are games that are for the first time ever coming to the tabletop. So, not
Mega Man, because they have a board game,
right, and not one of the million Mario games that exist already, but something totally new. This doesn't count because we already know about it. Like all of the Horizon Zero Dawn game, all of the Metal Gear game. I just really think that this is going to be something that is going to start to happen more. And it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't go on and say this, but I would love an E3 announcement when they're talking about next generation consoles. Here's how we're going to completely reinvent, your gaming experience. If not only are you going to be having this with the best fidelity, blah, 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 but you can also, play it on your table and do all these other things and have these experiences elsewhere. So, I think it's going to be a big one. So my final one is another bummer of one. I think there's going to be one significant game convention that will announce 2020 is its last year of doing the convention.
Yeah, there's too many big game conventions right now, so I agree with that.
So, like I said, I feel like mine are all kind of a bummer, and I don't think we're on a quote-unquote gaming bubble. Like, I don't think the industry is set to go into ruin, but I think the industry is set to pare back just a little bit on what it's doing.
Yeah, you need balance, right? And, like, if they're smart enough to see we're oversaturated in this, take it back a little bit. And
right, for sure.
We need that balance. Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely. All right, sir. Then what is your first board game goal for 2020?
Okay, I don't want to just say to play more board games because that's a cheap answer, right?
Right.
But I have so many board games to play. So my first true goal is related to that. So I don't want to just focus on my new board games, right? So I have this giant shiny stack of new board games here. I don't want that to overshadow my games I haven't played yet. So my first goal is related to a guest we'll be having in 2020. And I want to get Mice and Mystics to the table like ASAP. I really want to get that game and give it if my wife isn't into it, that's fine. But I need to figure that out. So my first goal of 2020 is to get Mice and Mystics to the table and give it a fair shot and make sure something that I didn't know. I'll roll that in. That's one of my other goals. I don't want to talk more about it. Okay.
No, that's
so
fine.
That's one of them.
That's great. Mice and Mystics. Okay. Mine is slightly related. Imagine that. Okay. So on my gaming shelves, there are 4 shelves, and then there are cabinets below that have games in them.
Yeah.
But on just 2 of the shelves, I only counted 2 of them, I have 23 unplayed games.
Yeah.
I recognize saying I'm going to play all 23 of those or whatever this year is impossible. But I just want to, and I think probably what happens, and I was talking with my partner about this, we run into the same issue when watching Netflix, when watching all these other things. It really just never quite works out because you look at all the things, you're like, I want to get all this stuff done, and then you just don't do any of it, right? Because there's so much. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play 1 new game a month. That's it. Just one. And all of the other time, if I decide I want to play another new game during the month, great. But if I want to play old things that I really enjoy, I'm just going to do that. And I think that'll help because right now I go and I look at all the games that are new that I haven't played. And I'm just like, man, I don't have the time to learn the rules for these. I don't have time to do all this because I think of all of them in total, right? So playing 1 a month isn't even going to get me through the backlog I have currently.
Yeah.
But I think it'll at least help me start making a dent on it. So 1 new game a month is what I'm committing to playing. No more, no less.
Nice. No more?
Well, potentially more, but I'm not making myself play more or setting a goal for more because that's what I've done every other year, and it just doesn't work. Like I feel so much pressure to get them done that I'm just like, well, it's just not going to happen. So 1 new game a month. What's your second goal, sir?
Okay, so my second goal I almost started talking about it a second ago. So when we sit down to play a game, especially if it's a new game, for whatever reason, my brain wants people to experience everything with me for the first time, like from setup to reading the rules,
right,
etc. And I realize that isn't ideal for everybody. So my goal is, we're going to go from similar to similar to similar. So whereas you want to play 1 new game a month, what I want to make sure that I do is before we sit down to play a new game, whether it's my 3rd new game for the month or my 1st, I want to have prepared as much as possible to teach the game and not necessarily to learn it with somebody. So that includes me reading the rules ahead of time, watching how to plays, etc. So for me, this is going to be a challenge because just like I don't like my spoilers in my movies, I also really enjoy finding out about how a game plays while I'm beginning to play it.
Oh, interesting.
To me, that really like, I know the idea, the theme, the look of the game, but I really enjoy finding out about the gameplay mechanisms as I'm sitting down to play the game. So for me, it's going to be a challenge to already know that ahead of time.
Right.
However, I think what this will do is allow me to better schedule game time with my wife.
Right.
So I'll be like last night, we were going to play a game. We were supposed to play a game. I said, we're going to play a game. And I said, you could pick it. You pick the game. And then, of course, by the time we got the kid down and we were going to play a game, she didn't want to play a game. And I said, no, we're playing a game. You can pick it. So she literally walked in here and picked the game with the shortest playtime. And I was like, great. Okay, fine. And we literally played a game in 20 minutes. And I said, can we just play another game that I promise is short? No, I'm done. So I think if I'm able to tell her, hey, let's pick a game. We'll play next Saturday. It's Saturday now. During the week, I will learn how to play it so I can teach it to you quicker. And then maybe we'll have time to play an older game after we play the new game.
Right.
So maybe we'll play Splendor or Alhambra again. But my goal is to come in prepared to teach a game to one or more people, whereas I feel like it would be bring a better experience to playing games.
You know, it's really interesting that that is the only way the partner and I play games.
Yeah, I know you pre set up and stuff.
Right. And whoever's the person who wanted to get the game is the person who's responsible for knowing the rules.
Also me all the time, yeah.
Well, okay, so really, I mean, I don't want to get too much into this.
No, it's okay.
Because we played A Feast for Odin earlier today. She wanted that game. So she learned the rules for A Feast of Odin. It took her 2 days to learn the rules for this game. But when we sat down and played it today, it took her 20 minutes to explain it to me because it's a pretty in-depth game.
Yeah.
And then we just played.
Nice.
So my, hurdle for playing was almost nothing. I will say, Josh, this game, oh goodness, it's so straightforward and complicated all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's you just take an action, and it, depending on how good the action is, it takes between 1 and 4 meeples. But there's over 60 actions to choose from.
Yeah, that's too much.
It's so good. Anyway, we'll talk about that more in the future.
Yeah, we'll play it. We can play it at the PSVG meetup.
There we go. That'll be great. I'll just bring that, and then if anybody tries to break into the house, I can hit him with it.
You bring that, and I bring Terra Mystica. I'm sure we'll win over every non-board
Everyone
gamer.
will be thrilled. It'll be great. All right. My next one, actually, my next goal is actually something I started today, and I'm pretty excited about it. One thing I've been really bad at is keeping track of the games that I have played. I have never, in any way, shape, or form, logged any of my games. So today, I started using BG Stats, the app.
Yeah.
It's $3.
I have it.
I have it now, too.
Nice.
And I logged my play for A Feast of Odin, or A Feast for Odin, and I will now log every game that is played in 2020. So I logged today's play just to make sure I had a good feel for how everything worked. But I really just want to do a better job of keeping track of the games that I'm playing, and really just having a good record of what I've done over the year. Not that I want to brag or anything like that, but I just really would like to have a better idea of how much time am I spending playing games? How long has it been since I've played X game, and just having a better job of making sure I'm, really paying attention to what I am playing, how often I'm playing it, so that I can keep a better job or keep up with my collection better of, is it time to trade some stuff out that is not getting played, regularly, and things like that. So started using BG Stats. I'm going to log all my games in 2020. Every game I play, it will be logged. I guarantee it.
Nice.
Awesome. What is it? Do you have a final goal?
I do, but I just found out I had BG Stats on my iPhone, but not on my
Oh, no.
Google. So maybe I'll just be using a spreadsheet to log my games, and then I'll put it on Board Game Geek. My last goal for 2020 is my craziest goal.
I believe in you.
And that is to complete Gloomhaven by the end of the year.
Ooh.
And that means better coordinating game nights and trying to get it from 1 to 2 nights a month. And then hopefully being able to find even more time to do that, or being able to allocate more time on the day we're playing, which involves a very crafty scheme of getting me and my friends' wives together so they can actually go out and do things the whole day, so it doesn't seem like we're monopolizing their free time.
Gotcha. Okay.
And other things. So my goal is to figure that out, and I will be backing Frosthaven this year. In fact, is it in a couple months?
March,
so
right?
I would like to, in March. So I would like to be ready to play Frosthaven when it comes out in 2021. So my goal is to, if not complete, 90% complete Gloomhaven by the end of 2020.
Very cool. Very cool. I support you in that endeavor, and I look forward to hearing about it on our podcast.
Thanks.
All right. So my final one is I am going to start using Board Game Geek more actively. I right now look at it daily almost.
Yeah.
I've never posted a thing ever on it. I've never in any way, shape, or form interacted with someone via Board Game Geek. But I think it probably would just be good for me and probably actually good for our podcast.
Us, yeah.
if I actually started being more active on there. So that is my goal, is to more actively engage with the folks on Board Game Geek and use it there. I don't know that I'm going to cross all of my plays, like log them in both places. But I do want to, maybe I'll rate games on Board Game Geek and start posting things and more like that. I do want to go ahead. I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm going to. I do want to break out all the interviews we've done individually.
Oh, nice.
And just have like those available and all that good stuff that way. So that is the thing I hope to do in the future more as well. So anyway, anything else you want to say about board games in 2020 before we move on to video games?
Oh, I love board games. Let's have more of them.
Let's have more of them indeed. All right. So moving on to video games, video games different than board games in the sense that we have a pretty decent idea about what a lot of early 2020 is going to look like, but we don't know much about what late 2020 is going to look like, thanks to new consoles and all that good stuff that are supposed to come out in the holiday. So to start with, we're just going to kind of talk about the games that are scheduled to release, what we're not interested in, and kind of the way things are looking there. Josh, I'm just going to run through the list. If there's something you want to talk about, just interrupt me and we'll talk about it. Sound good?
Oh, man. I hate interrupting, but sure.
I will go at a pace where there's a natural break.
How about I do what Donnie seemed to love, which was my reactions to the Game Award winners.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll do that. Starting January 9th, Monster Hunter World Iceborne for PC. January 17th, we get Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Huh?
And Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore.
Hashtag.
January 23rd is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered.
Again?
Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD.
On the Switch, right? So it's a 15-year-old game coming out new on the Switch.
Indeed.
Okay.
The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners.
I thought that was only VR.
That's on PC, so that could be.
Okay. Boom.
January 28th is Journey to the Savage Planet.
This one looks interesting, actually. I'm excited to not like it, but it looks very cool.
And then also is Warcraft 3 Reforged.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that.
Okay. February 4th, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Tactics.
No.
February 11th is Yakuza 5.
There's more?
February 14th is Darksiders Genesis.
Oh. This
is the console release. Yeah, that's the console release.
Yeah.
Dreams.
That's not out already?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And Street Fighter V Champion Edition.
They do it every time. I can't believe it.
February 18th is Bayonetta and Vanquish 10th Anniversary Bundle.
And that's not on the Switch?
That is not on the Switch.
Oh, we gotta wait 5 more years.
Yeah. February 20th is Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition on Switch.
Oh, there we go.
And Under Night in Birth X. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to say all that. X Latte Clear?
No, it's EXE late, and then it's DOS code for some reason.
CLR. Okay. There you go. There's one of those games. February 25th is Mega Man 0/ZX Legacy Collection.
Yeah.
All right. February 28th is Marvel's Iron Man VR.
Yeah, I mean, PSVR FOMO.
I'm looking forward to that one. Also, One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows.
A fun story. When my Hulu account was stolen and sold on the dark web, the one thing that people used from my account was One Punch Man for some reason.
That's such a funny story.
Yeah, hilarious.
Hulu account sold on the dark web. Okay. Yeah. March 3rd, Final Fantasy VII Remake. March 11th, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Or is it?
Okay. March 13th, My Hero 1 Justice 2.
More anime.
Also that day is Neo 2.
Neo 2.
Okay. March 20th, Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Yeah, I had to get my wife a Switch Lite just for this game.
Okay. Also that day, Doom 64 and Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Okay. March 24th, Bleeding Edge.
That's, yeah.
Okay. March 31st, Persona 5 Royal.
We already had a Persona 5.
We did. This is like the
Persona
4
edition.
This is like it's like Persona 4 Golden, but Persona 5 Royal.
Great. It's just another 60-hour game before you get to the game.
No. I was going to say 60-hour game. I'm like, no, but until you get to the game, maybe. Also, sometime in March is Half-Life Alyx.
Half-Life 3.
And Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Why does it say Amazon?
Because you can buy it on Amazon. It's the pre-order link.
I was like, we got a new contender entering the arena.
All right, moving into April then. April 16th is Cyberpunk 2077.
Keanu.
April 24th is Trials of Mana.
Okay, can you explain this to me? Isn't this just the crazy old Secret of Mana sequel?
This is is this the one that
clicking. Hold on, I'm clicking the link. Of course, there's nothing here. Okay, continue.
Okay. April 28th, Gears Tactics.
Yes, I'm excited for that one.
Okay, April to be determined still, Minecraft Dungeons.
Yeah, Minecraft Diablo, very cool.
All right, May 15th, Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, that will be pushed back.
May 22nd, Maneater.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either. May 29th, The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be excited, so hooray.
Okay, and sometime in May, Wasteland 3.
Yeah, it's weird about Wasteland 3. I'm not trying to discount the game, but it's odd that they focused on that at the Xbox conference, which was... I don't know why. I mean, I know why they focused on it, because of a certain studio, but I don't know if it should have been the headliner to the experience.
Yeah, and I totally get that not every game is for every person. I totally 100% understand that. But I think that style of game is really the number of people who are interested in that it seems to be a more narrow field of view, if you would, than some other games they potentially could have focused on. Because as soon as they went to that, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not going to watch this anymore.
It's a weird mix of XCOM, but with Fallout 2, but also with an RPG. So you're not really getting a specific experience with the game, and I'm basing that on Wasteland 2. But it sounds like what they're saying is it's going to be very similar.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other big games still that are at this point, quote unquote, confirmed for 2020, including 12 Minutes, Bravely Default 2, Destroy All Humans Remaster, the Dying Light 2, Godfall, Gods and Monsters, Ghost of Tsushima, Halo Infinite, Kerbal Space Program 2, the whole Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which should be interesting. Flight Simulator is supposed to come in. No More Heroes 3, that one was for you, Donnie. Predator Hunting Grounds actually is in April. I don't know why that's not in the list there. Psychonauts 2, Roller Champions, Skull and Bones. Do you think that's actually going to come out 2020?
No, it's not even coming out anymore.
Rainbow Six Quarantine is still supposed to come out. Watch Dogs Legion. So a whole bunch of other games kind of, on the precipice or talked about for 2020. When you think of 2020, excluding, not even thinking about new consoles.
Yeah.
Just for the games that we know about so far. Are you looking forward to 2020?
I mean, I am. And I know you said not to take into account new consoles, but I think I have to because I'm surprised at how many games are coming out in a new console generation year. Usually, when a new generation of consoles comes out, we don't see this many like big games coming out. So
yeah,
I'm very surprised at the amount of big games coming out, and I guess that's a good thing. But
right.
people generally want to save money on a new console year, and this could be a problem unless you have Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean there are some exceptions. Obviously, you know, The Last of Us came out in 2013.
Sure.
You know, so there are exceptions here and there, but typically you're right. Like the year that we're wrapping up now is usually the year that has a whole bunch of big hitters in it. Where it's interesting because I felt like last year had some really big hitters. This year had a lot of good games.
Yeah.
And I think next year is shaping up to have, again, a lot of big hitters in it. So it is kind of an odd timeline compared to what we might expect to see.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it kind of makes you wonder if we're being forced into this new generation when they're, and I think this happened with the last gen, like when they're finally developing games to their fullest developmental possibility. Like, why not? I don't know. I just feel like sometimes when we hit this, we could have another solid year of Xbox One and PS4 games looking incredible.
Right.
Not having to worry about a next generation of games. Like when Destiny came out and it was on both 360 and Xbox One and PS3 and PS4. It was just this weird... We're still going to have those questions, right? If we get dual launch games, are we getting a subpar game on the console we already have, etc., etc.? So it is weird to see... Are we going to get Cyberpunk 2077 on next-gen consoles also? And is it going to be remarkably better, like on a PC playing at higher specs?
Well, in some ways you are, though, right? Because they said everything's going to be backward compatible, right? So you'll be able to play your, Xbox... You'll be able to play your games on your Xbox on your Series X, including Cyberpunk.
So why buy it?
Well, but is there going to be a patch that, updates the graphics, updates the load speeds, updates all of that stuff? If that doesn't just happen naturally as far as loads, I don't know. But, I do wonder if that's going to happen. And, from what people have said, I'm not an expert in these things by any means, but it sounds like, you spec the game to the highest level you can and then bring it back for the lower levels.
Right.
And I think especially, last gen to this gen, I think it's a little different than this gen to next gen, whereas architecture and stuff seems like it's staying pretty similar. It's just moving up and increasing power and what's under the hood, if you were, that's pushing that. So, I think the big thing that will be telling is whether or not those quote unquote updates cost anything.
Oh God, I can't even.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're playing Cyberpunk, and maybe Cyberpunk's a bad example because of the way CD Projekt Red tends to do those things, but if you're playing, the next Assassin's Creed or whatever, well, I probably would release when the consoles do.
Last of Us
really
2.
Bad example. Yeah, if you're Last of Us 2, and then it's like, oh, here's the PS5 version. That is the
$10 more.
$10 more, or if you have the PS4 version, you can pay $10 to get the fancy graphics upgrade pack,
right?
If you want to. And that's what I'm interested to see if those things happen or not. But I'm really interested. I think it's I'm really wondering what PlayStation is going to talk about as far as launch lineup goes, because Xbox has Halo. We already know that. We know that Xbox has Halo. And we've seen trailers we saw trailers for the next Senua game and all that stuff, which they obviously didn't say was launched by any means. But Xbox has Halo. What in the world? Godfall's not good enough. I'm sorry. Like, if you're PlayStation, that can't be it. So I really wonder what that's going to be for them.
I think we proved, though, that PlayStation gamers, and this is not a slight to them, they're not looking for that first-person shooter game.
It's true, they're not.
So Halo isn't the killer that Microsoft needs for launch. Like, Xbox needs a game that's going to take PlayStation gamers away from PlayStation, at least for that launch window, and that's not Halo.
Does it, though? In the sense of if you are...
Well, for sales, I mean. Like, Xbox needs to exponentially increase their sales to be competitive, because Sony blows them out of the water.
Well, right, but if you are if you are, say you're a PlayStation gamer or an Xbox, say you have one PlayStation gamer and one Xbox gamer.
Yeah.
And yes, you could say, okay, well, Game Pass is a thing that'll pull a PlayStation person over. Maybe it will. Who knows? But if you have Halo sitting there on release day that is going to look and play best on your brand new console,
Yeah.
are you more likely to upgrade, you know, versus a PlayStation person? Yeah, they might not jump ship, but maybe they're also like, well, I'm not just going to buy anything because there's nothing that I want for my PlayStation 5 right now.
Right.
You know?
That's true.
So I think
That's true.
I think it's even just who are you going to get to upgrade or stay in the ecosystem day one. And maybe the PlayStation 4 gamer doesn't leave even, but if they're not buying the PlayStation 5 because you don't have the thing, that's going to look rough for them. And when holiday sales come out and when all that stuff comes out and Xbox looks great because all these people bought Halo or upgraded because of Halo, well, now PlayStation immediately, just like Xbox was before, is a step behind, even if realistically, you know, it's been 6 weeks. You know?
That's a good point. I wasn't thinking of it that way. That's true.
So, okay. Anything else we want to talk about 2020-wise before we get into our predictions? Anything you want to say about next-gen consoles or anything like that before we get into the fun stuff?
No, because one of mine is a prediction, so I don't want to overkill it.
Okay, no problem at all. How many video game predictions do you have?
I also did 3.
Okay, perfect. I will start then. So here we go. All right. I'm trying to pick something that you're not going to. Okay. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Are any of your predictions about this?
No.
Okay, perfect. And this is from someone who knows nothing about Nintendo, so this could be completely wrong. I apologize. It's a prediction. It's going to release holiday 2020 as Nintendo's way to draw attention from the new console releases. That is how they are going to combat new consoles, is saying like, hey, here's the sequel to the best game of all time.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. If not more than just Breath of the Wild, but yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree.
And like I said, I don't know. I will preface this with, I don't know if that will for sure happen, but I think that's what they want to have happen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they have to stay competitive, and that's a great way to do it.
So, cool. All right, sir. Your first prediction.
Okay. My first prediction is one of the 2 new console generations is going to have a colossal failure of a launch.
Oh, okay.
And I think one of them is going to come out with a $5.99 price tag. And I think that's what is going to, and I think it's going to be. We're in this race, right? I'm not predicting if it's Microsoft or Sony, because I honestly don't know what I think. But what we're going to see is someone's going to announce a price first, unfortunately, for that person. And then the next, whoever doesn't, is going to have, 12 hours to scramble to try to find a way to get their console at a lower price. If they already haven't, nailed that lower price. And I think...
So are you saying the prices will be announced at E3 then, if it's that time frame?
I think they have to announce at E3 if they're trying to get out holiday 2020. That's the latest you can announce it, if not earlier than E3. Maybe prices before E3 and then games at E3. We still haven't even seen what the PS5 looks like.
Right.
So who knows? And with PlayStation doing the state of play, and maybe they're skipping E3 again for a more favorable model for them, which I wouldn't blame them for doing. They might not even be at E3, so who knows? But I really feel like someone's going to think this is a make or break year for them, and we've seen it happen before. And I'm not saying that Sony's going to do it again. It could easily be Microsoft, but someone's going to mess up on the price point because they think that they can get people to pay a certain amount.
Right.
By pricing out. They're putting a price on the graphics, on the game, on the price of making games and publishing games, which I don't have a problem with. But I just don't think it's going to be what gamers are able to or willing to spend on a console. Why not buy a PC at that point?
Gotcha. I think, and I could be totally wrong, my sneaky suspicion is that I do think Xbox is going to launch with 2 versions.
I think so too, yeah.
I think they're going to have a version that is less expensive they're in the like say it's like $350 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the PlayStation 5 will be at $400, and then the more expensive version will be $500 for Xbox.
Sure.
Is what I think is going to happen. And whether it be the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X or whatever.
Yeah.
I really think that Sony's going to be sandwiched in between. So no matter what it looks like, even if their $400 machine is spec'd similarly to the $500 machine that Xbox has, it's going to look quote unquote more expensive.
Yeah.
So awesome. I have a goal, I'll say a prediction that is kind of in line with this, or it has to deal with launch of the new consoles. I'm going to say that the launch lineup for PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox are going to widely be considered to be very good.
Okay.
I think that they are both going to have some big hitter games with them. So this is not going to be kind of like where the PS4 and the Xbox One launch lineup were fine. Like they were fine games for them. I think this is going to be overall a really solid launch. I think there's going to be one or two standout titles for each system, and that people will look back positively about the launch of these systems.
Cool. I predict around September or October, BioWare is going to have a big event where they reveal, maybe not a big event, they're going to reveal the next Dragon Age. So, like, think of how Bethesda did E3 last year, and they were like, hey, by the way, we're doing the new Elder Scrolls and then this space game, right? Like, these are the two games, Starfield, that aren't coming out for a while. Yep. So I predict that near the end of the year, since we're going to have our new console generations announced and almost available, BioWare's going to come out. They're going to announce the next Dragon Age for next-gen consoles with a date. And then we're going to see a tease, very similar to Starfield, of a revisiting to Commander Shepard in a new Mass Effect series that it completely ignores Andromeda.
So what do you picture that trailer is?
Shepard's voice, both male and female, like seamlessly blended into each other, sentence by sentence. Sorry, I think too much about it. And then like, kind of like you hear like Seth Green's voice as Joker. You hear Miranda, and you hear and all these voices talking, and they kind of like just show like space, and then at the end, like the Normandy flies by. That's what I picture, like very, very vividly. And it'll probably never happen. It's just my dreams, but I really think that BioWare needs to revisit Mass Effect and continue with Shepard's story, because they really screwed the pooch on their reimagining of Mass Effect.
So here's my trailer in my mind. So you start on Earth, or an Earth-like planet, we'll say. And it starts to you where you're zoomed in on a piece of grass or something like that. And it slowly pans back, and it pans back, and it pans back, and eventually gets into space, and it keeps panning back. And then right before it gets to a spaceship where it's panning back, you see a small explosion. And then the camera turns and pans, and you see Commander Shepard. I'm going to say FemShep because best Shep. And you see Commander Shepard, and you see them squint a little bit at the explosion, and then you hear Joker say, "Commander Shepard, we need you on the bridge." And she just turns and walks, and it cuts, and that's it.
That's great too.
That's my trailer in my mind. So, all right, cool. My next prediction is that, thinking of all the games we know, we just talked about how 2020 there are some huge IP that have games coming out. Yeah. I think a game that we don't even currently know about, so this includes like Halo that doesn't technically have a release date yet. So a game we don't know, has never formally been confirmed, will win Game of the Year at either the Game Awards or from one significant publication, i.e. IGN, GameSpot, or Game Informer.
Oh, okay.
So I think even despite all of the big IP we have, I think there is going to be something a la Disco Elysium or something like that comes out and just steals people's hearts that we weren't expecting.
Cool. I'm all on board for that.
Agreed.
All right, my last prediction is PlayStation related. I'm going to say March.
Mm-hmm.
We get a state of play
Mm-hmm.
where they reveal the PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, but they reveal the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn will be launching with the PlayStation 5. And we also can get a super cool limited edition Horizon Zero Dawn PlayStation 5 that looks like a Dyson vacuum cleaner.
Oh, man. That's good. I would be down for that.
I think it's going to be a launch game.
Yeah, I think that's the general sentiment right now, and I hope it's true.
It would probably get me to not buy an Xbox.
I mean, I am going to get both eventually, and at this point, I don't know.
At release, yeah.
Yeah, at release, I think I will. I'd be very hard pressed to not get a PlayStation at release at this point. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I really hope. Man, I want Horizon 2 so bad. All right, I have 2 left. I'll go through them very quickly because neither of them are brain busters, I don't think. Microsoft and Sony are each going to announce at least one more studio acquisition in 2020.
Sony's hinted at that, right?
Sony has a couple times.
Yeah.
Microsoft says they're done, but then
feels
they
like
walk
we're
it
not
back.
done yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Matt Booty will be like, "No, we're done," and then they walk it back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think especially for Microsoft, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like a studio based in Japan,
which would be smart of them.
And they've talked many times about that. Like I was going to say Platinum, but obviously with their relationship with Nintendo, I don't know that would happen. If they could shell out enough money, maybe they go big and try to buy Capcom.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
But yeah, and for Sony, I don't know. I think Sony is somebody that we wouldn't be surprised by, like a Blue Point or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but, and then my last one. This is, I think, going to be my most controversial one. So we'll see what people say. At the end of 2020,
the world
Amazon.
Will end. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Amazon will have an active game streaming option. However, Google will not.
I actually took that out of my list. Because
really?
I was going to say that we won't see Stadia after July. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that.
So yeah, I think by the end of 2020, again, Amazon is going to have an active game streaming option, but I think Google will be out of the business. We'll see. I could be wrong. They have bought a whole bunch of they have created studios and hired a whole bunch of people. So that would be a huge pivot, but Google's done stranger things. So.
Hey, I have had Stadia for 2 months now, and Destiny 2 still doesn't work right. So
excellent.
We'll see what happens in 2020.
All right, Josh. Video game goals. Let's hit them. What is your first video game goal for 2020?
Oh, well, my first video game goal of 2020 is a stupid one because it's going to happen, but it's to play games with Kyle.
Oh my gosh, Josh, that's what I find.
Whether it be board games or video games, like... if you listen to PSVG Prime, Luke, someone asked the question, like, what is the one thing you want to happen at the PSVG, like, house party thing? And Lucas is like, I would love to just play Mario Party. And, like, man, when he said that, I'm like, I've been dying to play Mario Party on the Switch. And I cannot wait to be able to have that opportunity to sit down and play, like, Jackbox or Mario Party or board games with all you guys. So, like... my goal, not even a video game goal or a board game goal, one of my big goals for 2020 is to, since my work lied to me about having a week extra this year, is about trying to find a way to make sure I'm there long enough to see everybody and spend time with everybody and have a great time. So that's my goal, is to play games with Kyle.
Awesome. Mine was I said, quote, I will play more games with people since I like playing games with people, especially Josh.
Nice. Perfect.
So that was also my goal. What is your second goal, sir?
My second video game goal for 2020 is to replay Horizon Zero Dawn and finally play the Frozen Wilds.
When are you planning to do that?
I don't know. If you want to do it, I would love to I would like to work on arranging a time where we decide to do that.
I would agree. And maybe sooner would be better.
Yeah, I think it would be, for sure.
Okay. we'll figure that out because I want to do that as well.
Awesome.
Which actually ties into another one of my goals, kind of, is that I'm going to follow the fun. I have really struggled with playing games that I feel like I have to play, and I really need to be done with that. Right now am playing a game from March 2018 because and it's a game I've played before. I was really close to the platinum in it. I got the platinum in Children of Morta, which kind of spurred this on. I was at 90% of the trophies in this game. And I'm just going back. I'm like, man, I love this game. It's Tesla versus Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Like it's a twin stick shooter that's just stupid fun. And I really am going to do that more. I'm going to allow myself and try to give myself the grace to do that. And it kind of stinks. You know, the woe is us podcast people, we would try to stay current and always be playing new stuff. But man, I just want to have fun with games. That's why they exist. So I am going to follow with the fun. What is your final video game goal, sir?
Okay, so my final video game goal is to give the Nintendo Switch a second chance.
That's good.
And I don't say that meaning I don't enjoy my Switch, because I do, but it's has very easily become the, like, I have all these other things and then there's the Switch, right?
Yeah,
even Stadia, I'm like, oh, I should just pick up my Stadia controller and play that in bed on my phone. Or I have Xbox game streaming, like, let's do that. And my Switch just sits there. In fact, I didn't even realize when I came back from Extra Life, I didn't even take my Switch out of the case for months. Not realizing, not months, a month. Not realizing I hadn't even taken it out to charge it.
Right.
So, like, a month went by, I lost power. I was like, oh, I just opened up the Switch. Battery's dead. Oh, yeah, because it's still been sitting in the carrying case since Extra Life. So, I would like to reinvigorate my Switch spirit. In fact, like I said to my wife, now that she has the Switch Lite, it's like, it's too bad we don't both have games that we can play together.
Right.
And she's like, we don't? And I was like, no, we don't, but we should. So my goal for 2020 is to reignite my love affair with the Nintendo Switch.
Did you do the little thing to see what your hours played were on Switch?
I got an email, and I just didn't share it with anybody because it was just so sad.
Mine was something like 29 hours or something like that.
Oh, yeah, mine was similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I will say, over the last 2 days or so, I've been playing Luigi's Mansion 3, and it is just absolutely charming.
Nice. Maybe I'll pick that one up in 2020.
All right, and my final video game goal for 2020 is that my backlog will not grow.
Oh.
Now, that's not saying I'm not going to buy new games.
Then
but
your backlog will grow.
But I am going to make sure that I am purchasing and playing games at a steady rate. I think saying, oh, I'm not going to buy any more games or something like that is unrealistic. But I'm thinking by following the fun, I will do a better job of ensuring I am playing the games that I want to play, not playing the games I think I have to play.
Sure.
And as a result of that, I think I will do a better job of maintaining and maintaining my backlog. So it doesn't get any worse than it is. It's never going to get any better. It's horrible as it is. I'm never going to get through them all. But I want to be able to say, oh, look, I don't have X number of games that I'm never going to play. So I just want to ensure that it does not grow.
You know, I partially control your backlog, right?
I know you do,
okay.
But here's the thing. Like, you got Sekiro, which is great, or Sekiro, whichever you want to say. I'm really excited to play it. I want to play that game. So that's not like a...
Oh, yeah, but you also shouldn't feel obligated to play games that I get.
Oh, I know, but, like, fortunately, every time, well, for the most part, when you buy games, they're games I want to play anyway, so it's fine.
Right.
So,
but if I bought Ghost Recon Breakpoint today for $20, and
right, and I honestly wouldn't count that as part of my backlog because I have zero desire to play that.
Right.
So,
just like the rest of the world. Sorry, Ubisoft, but
all right,
Ubisoft.
Man, that game was so good it delayed their entire catalog. Okay. Any other things we want to say about 2020 in video games before we get to our listeners?
No, I'm excited to see. We don't know a lot that's coming, so I'm excited to see what's awaiting for us.
Yeah, everything after May is pretty speculative at this point, and actually a lot of Nintendo stuff, even first half, is speculative, so we'll have to wait and see. But with that, we do have some amazing questions, thoughts, and comments from our listeners. Josh, why don't you take us through those?
Yeah, so we posted up questions about this episode if people want to make predictions or ask us questions. So we're going to just start right away with our Our buddy William at Hirkovitz replying to us says, well, he says a few things. One, I want to know which unplayed games languishing on Kyle and Josh's shelves they plan on finally breaking out in 2020. So I'll start by saying William sent me Vindication. Actually, William got Vindication sent to me. And that definitely needs to be played by me. I need to play Century: A New World. I got Beasts of Balance today, which I've been looking forward to playing for years. So I'm excited to play that. And then I got Skull Hollow for Christmas. I can't wait to play that.
Yeah, it's so good.
As well as the Hunger Games from Kickstarter. And I'm going to add the Unmatched series of games that I got at PAX Unplugged, as well as Everdell when I get the 2 Kickstarter expansions, playing Everdell with all the expansions. Those are the games that are partially sitting on my shelf that I need to break out this next year.
I will say really briefly that this game isn't on my shelf, but William, when he was on the show, basically told me I can't have a podcast about board games because I've never played this game. So at some point this year, I'm going to play Twilight Imperium.
Well, good luck to you. William, I reject that you said that.
So that is what is happening. Twilight Imperium. It's going to happen this year. I want to play it too. That's like a big thing. I just need to find a group of people who want to play it too.
PSVG House Party. I almost said Board with the Video Games House Party. That'll be a fun one. William, if you're listening and you're in the middle of the United States in June, hit us up.
You can come play it. You can teach us to play Twilight Imperium. I will go buy it if you're going to be there.
Yeah, and I'll cook food for you. 2, prediction. William's prediction is D&D teases the game's 6th edition. And to that I say, I didn't know they had a 5th one, so cool.
You really didn't know that D&D 5th edition existed?
I did. I'm teasing William.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Just like his, him putting PUBG in his top 10 games of the decade.
Oh, gotcha.
Number 3, he says, his hope for 2020 is a new top-tier social deduction game hits the shelves. We all know William loves social deduction games, so I'm excited for that as well. When are we going to get a Clue, the movie, the game, deduction game?
That's a very good question. We should get a Knives Out deduction game. That'd be sweet.
I got to see that movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Cool. I listened to Ryan Johnson talk about how much he loves mystery movies on Doug Loves Movies, that it really made him so much more endearing to me. He's so well-versed in murder mysteries.
He really, really is. It was funny. I listened to him on a podcast recently as well, and someone was asking him about like all these Agatha Christie tropes, and he's like, "Oh yeah, and in this book they did this and blah blah." Like just knew, not looking anything up. You could tell just and then in this book, and then they talked about this in this book, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like clearly very well educated and knowledgeable in that area for sure.
Yes, so I need to see that movie. Anthobolicious, we get 2 replies, one for video games, one for board games. Let's start with the first reply. Oh, pardon me. I've been really enjoying some indie titles lately, but big name gaming hasn't grabbed me lately. Outside of Last of Us 2 / Diablo 4, there's just a handful of titles I'm remotely interested in. Is this the end? Give me something to be excited about past my backlog. Well, hopefully we did just do that for you.
And there's this little game that is currently in early access on Steam and Epic Games Store that will hopefully be coming to consoles and all that good stuff. Hades by the good folks at Supergiant. I don't know. I have obviously no idea if that game's coming out in 2020, but they make some stellar stuff, and that is a smaller game that if it comes out in 2020, I am super excited to play. So look forward to Hades.
That game does look cool. Okay, second comment. Board games, I don't look to the future as much since I have lots to play already. Amen. They don't age like video games do. Thrilled I got a few for Christmas, but didn't get a single video game, and he lies because he did get a video game. And it's called BB and Tina's Horse Adventure. And he also got Goose Game. So, take that. Splig, you liar.
I am really, and I was not joking, I am looking for a review of BB and Tina's Horse Adventure as soon as your girls can tell us what they think of it.
Oh, I would love to know. I left out that part that he said for his girls. I'm pretty sure it's him playing it. I played Goose Game on Xbox Game Pass. And my son watched me play, and he walked around the house going, honk, honk. So it's good for kids.
Perfect.
Coach Mo and Coach Hulk, he replies saying, goals. Madden and FIFA bring back the story mode. And to that, I say, I hope so, Coach, because it sounded really cool. And I never got to play them. Finally, Backlog Blues chimes in. I look forward to more family gaming nights. Amen to that. Finding and introducing my kids to some cool non-video games. Maybe teaching them to play Lunch Money. So I like that. We have some board game ideals for the year, and that's great. Yeah. And if you have any other questions about board games for family nights, hit us up because we can recommend those games. For sure.
Josh definitely can. I struggle, but can tell you what other people
I'm
say.
sorry, you didn't play all of Stuffed Fables?
I mean, I did, but...
Okay. I rest my case.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start to wrap the show up here a little bit. Obviously, we are a gaming podcast, but we do want to give you one recommendation, suggestion, or thing that we're currently into that's helping us live a well-rounded life. Josh, what is your recommendation for our dear listeners?
Hey, so my recommendation is give something a second chance. I put game or film. It can be anything, really. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. But that's my new goal. My new goal is to give things a second chance. And these are things maybe I didn't have the time to give the proper time to, not to reuse time too much, or the proper attention to. Or if it's something that I thought that I really didn't enjoy that a lot of people did enjoy, because you never know where you are mentally when you're watching or playing something. For example, I have been a notorious hater of Galaxy Quest, and I find myself to be in the very, very minority in that group. So I decided to rewatch Galaxy Quest, and I still hated it, but that's okay. I gave it a second chance.
Yeah, you did.
Also, I just started watching The Phantom Menace with my son, actually. Because I also do not enjoy the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I find myself living in a world where I can say A New Hope lives up to like its age, and Phantom Menace doesn't. There's a lot of bad CGI in the Phantom Menace where it takes me like really right out of it. However, I do still only have the ability to watch the special edition of A New Hope, and there's parts of that movie I can't stand.
Yeah.
But as a whole, that movie holds up way better, unfortunately, than The Phantom Menace. But I will be giving the original prequels a second chance as well. And in fact, I'm going to give The Witcher 3 a second chance. Because everyone in the world apparently is giving The Witcher 3 a second chance.
Sounds like it.
But it's making me want to at least give it a shot because I really didn't give it a chance when it came out. So what I would say is think of something you gave the short end of the stick to, or you decided you didn't like it before it came out, or I don't know, maybe you're Lucas and you never watched the Ninja Turtles movies and you don't know who the purple Ninja Turtle is and you break my heart. Maybe you give that a chance. Give a shot to things that maybe you missed or gave a pass on.
Awesome. My recommendation is probably something you've heard a lot of other people talk about, but it's pretty fun. That's just The Witcher on Netflix. I sat down to watch it. I, like Josh, was not a fan of Witcher 3. And this, I will say, watching this did make me consider replaying it, but then I saw that everyone else was. I was like, oh, man. Not that I didn't want to do it to be a follower, but then I remembered how long the game is, and I was like, oh, gosh, I don't know that even if I gave it another chance, that I'd finish it. So, here's what I will say about The Witcher, and this is going to sound like I am not recommending it. The acting is not the best. The writing is not the best. They do a pretty good job of, art direction and set dressings and all of that. But like CG and special effects, not the best. Most of the sword fight choreography is actually really good. So that's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of things about it that just aren't great, but for some reason, I just really enjoyed it. I sat down, I watched it. I was like, that first episode was pretty good. Asked the partner and said, hey, do you want to watch this? Just give it a shot. She said, okay. We watched the first episode again. She's like, you know what? I don't know that I like it, but I want to keep watching it. And that's the same situation I was in. I don't know that I love this show. I don't know that I would ever consider it to be a top favorite show in any way, shape, or form. But darn it, I watched it over 2 days.
Nice.
So I just really had a good time with it. So yeah, it's fun. It's a good sit, as they say. I really enjoyed it. The one thing I will say is this is a show you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of really weird things with timelines that you have to pay attention or you'll be super confused about what's happening. So yeah, but I enjoyed it. I recommend The Witcher on Netflix. It's fun.
Nice.
Josh, what do you say we wrap this show up?
What a great idea for a short episode of Bored with Video Games. Thanks for joining us, everyone. In addition to finding us on Twitter and Instagram at BoredWithVG, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BoredWithVG as well. So feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there. Also, if you want to communicate in the more long form, or you're just not feeling social media, please feel free to send us an email at boredwithvg@gmail.com. We actually had an email from Paul asking us, I should do this now, about the Ghostbusters trailer. Have you seen the new trailer?
I have.
He wants to know, do we think the kids in the video are related to a former Ghostbuster, and if so, which one?
Well,
I think, because he said something about his grandfather, I think that it's Egon's son.
That's where I am at as well.
Okay, cool. We tag our stuff with #BoredWithVG, so feel free to use that hashtag on all social media. And whatever podcast service you're listening to us on, we encourage you to give us a stellar rating. That is whether you're downloading us from the PSVG feed, the Dice Tower Network feed, or our very own standalone Bored with Video Games feed. You can find me still on Google Stadia, PlayStation Network, and Xbox Live at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. Kyle, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the usual places: Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. Be on the lookout, because Meta Spring will be coming back in January, so that will be one of our early 2020 episodes, so be ready for that. But remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.